Naomi Blake sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone screen. The clock blinked past midnight. Her birthday had ended, but the one call she hoped for never came. Not from her mother, Claudia. Not from her sister, Elena. Her inbox was filled with texts from friends, co-workers, even a sweet video from Olivia, her best friend since high school. But her family? Nothing. Naomi wasn't surprised. It wasn't the first time. Birthdays, graduations, promotions, her mother always found a way to forget. Claudia only cared about Elena, the golden child who seemed to shine effortlessly. Naomi sighed, fighting back tears. She had promised herself she wouldn't care this year. But deep down, it still hurt. Family was supposed to remember. She scrolled once more, pretending she didn't expect anything. Her screen lit up with a social media post. Elena had uploaded photos from a dinner that very night. Their mother was there, smiling, celebrating someone else. Naomi's heart sank. They had time to celebrate others but not her. She whispered to herself, never again. I'll stop waiting. For the first time, Naomi didn't just feel forgotten. She felt free. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. The morning sun streamed through Naomi's blinds, but it didn't chase away the heaviness in her chest. She picked up her phone again, even though she knew. Still no call. No message from her mom, Claudia. None from her sister, Elena. Instead, cheerful notifications filled her screen. Olivia had sent a funny voice note, "Happy birthday, Queen. Tonight we celebrate." A few colleagues posted sweet birthday wishes. Even old college friends remembered. But not her own family. Naomi sat quietly, remembering past birthdays. One year, she was only 12 when Claudia completely forgot. Another year, she turned 18 and watched her mom throw a party for Elena instead. Naomi had smiled through it all, pretending it didn't matter. But it always mattered. She typed a short thank you to Olivia, then placed her phone face down. She wasn't going to beg for attention anymore. She wouldn't text first. She wouldn't remind them. Outside her window, life went on. Cars passed, neighbors waved, kids biked to school. For a moment, Naomi felt invisible. Her phone buzzed again, another cheerful wish from a distant friend. She smiled weakly. Family silence cut deeper than any absence. And this time, she swore, it would change. Naomi carried her coffee to the small balcony, watching the quiet street below. The silence gave her mind too much room to wander, pulling her back into memories she wished she could forget. She remembered her 13th birthday. She had waited all day for her mother, Claudia, to come home. Instead, Claudia returned late with a cake, for Elena. She had a hard week, Claudia had explained, brushing Naomi off as if she were an afterthought. Her 18th birthday was worse. Naomi had been excited, hoping for something special. Instead, she found her family gathered around Elena, singing for her new internship. No one even lit a candle for Naomi. She had locked herself in her room, listening to laughter echo through the walls. Now, sitting alone, she realized nothing had changed. Years later, the pattern was the same. Elena was adored, Naomi was ignored. Her chest tightened, but instead of breaking down, something stirred inside her. Anger, yes, but also determination. If her family couldn't see her worth, she would show them another way. She sipped her coffee slowly, whispering to herself. I'm done being invisible. For the first time, Naomi felt the spark of change begin to burn. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. That night, Naomi lay awake staring at the ceiling. The hurt from her forgotten birthday still pressed heavy on her chest, but beneath it, a new resolve began to take shape. She thought about all the times she had tried to win her family's approval, working extra hard in school, staying out of trouble, even sending thoughtful gifts. None of it ever mattered. Her mother, Claudia, always brushed her aside. Elena, the golden child, never failed to remind Naomi she was second best. Naomi realized something painful but true: she had been living for scraps of attention that were never coming. She sat up in bed and pulled out a notebook. On the first page, she wrote in bold letters, "No more waiting. Build for yourself." The words looked powerful in the dim glow of her lamp. For years, she had hoped her family would change, but now she understood: the only change that mattered was her own. Naomi closed the notebook and placed it on her desk. She felt lighter, as if she had dropped a weight she had carried for far too long. This birthday wasn't just forgotten, it had become her turning point. Naomi poured herself into work with a new kind of energy. By day, she kept her regular office job, but by night, her tiny apartment became a war room for her dreams. The dining table turned into a desk stacked with notebooks, market research, and her laptop glowing late into the night. She had always been interested in wellness and healthcare. People constantly complained about not finding affordable, honest clinics. Naomi thought, what if I build something that actually helps people? It sounded impossible at first, but the more she researched, the clearer her vision became. Olivia often stopped by with coffee, teasing Naomi. One day, I'm going to tell people I knew the founder before she was famous. Her encouragement gave Naomi strength. Meanwhile, her family remained silent. No calls, no texts, only proof that Naomi had made the right decision. Their neglect fueled her drive. Most nights, she worked until her eyes burned, chasing an idea bigger than herself. It was exhausting, but it didn't feel hopeless anymore. For the first time, Naomi wasn't trying to impress Claudia or outshine Elena. She was building something only for herself. And that, she realized, was the sweetest kind of revenge. Weeks turned into months, and Naomi began seeing progress. They weren't huge leaps, but small wins that kept her motivated. She secured a freelance client who paid her to design a wellness plan. She made her first $500, and though modest, it felt like gold in her hands. Olivia insisted on celebrating with takeout pizza and sparkling water. "This is just the beginning," she said, raising her glass. Naomi laughed, but inside, she felt something she hadn't in years: validation. She created a small website and social media page, sharing health tips and affordable service ideas. Slowly, strangers began following her. They weren't family, but they were people who believed in her work. That mattered more. Every night, she added another brick to the foundation of her dream. She stayed organized, tracked her goals, and refused to give up, no matter how tired she became. Still, Claudia and Elena remained absent. Naomi noticed they hadn't even clicked like on her posts. But instead of sadness, she felt relief. Their silence gave her space to grow without their judgment. The wins were small, but they built her confidence brick by brick. Naomi was no longer invisible, at least, not to herself. One chilly morning, Naomi's inbox held a message that made her breath catch. A mid-sized company wanted to partner with her wellness project. They had seen her posts online and admired her affordable approach. The email ended with, "Let's schedule a meeting. We believe your vision has potential." Naomi blinked at the screen, hardly believing it. After months of grinding in silence, someone finally saw what she was building. She forwarded the email to Olivia, who instantly called. "This is it. This is your break." The meeting was nerve-wracking. Naomi wore her best suit, hands trembling as she entered the sleek office. But once she began presenting her ideas, her fear melted away. Her passion carried her words. By the end, the executives nodded with approval. 2 weeks later, she signed her first real contract, worth more than she had ever imagined. That night, she stood on her balcony, looking at the city lights. She felt tears sting her eyes, not from sadness, but pride. For once, her worth wasn't ignored. Claudia and Elena still hadn't called. But Naomi no longer cared. Her success was speaking louder than their silence ever could. The contract changed everything. With funding secured, Naomi expanded her project into a small but functional clinic space. It wasn't flashy, just a rented office with clean walls, new equipment, and a bright sign that read, Blake Wellness. She hired 2 part-time assistants and began taking clients in person. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. People loved that Naomi treated them with respect and offered fair prices. Soon, her schedule filled faster than she expected. Olivia often helped with paperwork, joking that she should start charging Naomi. "You'll owe me free health checkups for life," she laughed. Naomi smiled, grateful. She knew she couldn't have done it without Olivia's constant support. As the clinic grew, so did Naomi's confidence. For the first time in her life, she wasn't in the shadow of Elena or begging for Claudia's approval. She was standing on her own 2 feet. Her phone remained silent from her family. But instead of pain, Naomi felt peace. Their absence no longer defined her. Every patient who walked through her doors was proof she didn't need her family's validation. She had built something real. Naomi was no longer waiting to be seen. She was seen. Months later, Naomi finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. The clinic was stable, her client list had doubled, and for the first time, she had real savings. She sat with Olivia at their favorite cafe, flipping through a glossy car magazine. "You've worked yourself to the bone," Olivia said, sipping her latte. "It's time you reward yourself." Naomi laughed nervously. "Reward myself with what? A new blender?" Olivia grinned, pointing at a sleek silver Audi spread across the page. "No. With this." At first, Naomi shook her head. Luxury cars were for other people, Elena, for example, who flaunted handbags online. But as she studied the polished Audi, she felt something shift. Why not her? She had earned it. Weeks later, Naomi walked into a dealership. The salesman's eyes widened when she pointed to the $225,000 Audi without hesitation. Signing the papers felt unreal, like reclaiming every year she had been overlooked. When she drove it off the lot, the engine's purr echoed louder than any birthday song she had missed. For once, Naomi wasn't forgotten, overlooked, or small. She was unstoppable, and her Audi was proof of it. Naomi parked the Audi in front of her clinic, sunlight glinting off the flawless paint. She hesitated, phone in hand, then snapped a picture. The caption was simple: "Hard work pays off. Here's to new beginnings." She almost didn't post it. But Olivia insisted. "Naomi, this isn't bragging. It's celebrating. People should see how far you've come." Within hours, the photo exploded. Friends, clients, and even old classmates commented with congratulations. The post gathered hundreds of likes, then thousands. Naomi's phone buzzed non-stop. For once, the attention didn't feel hollow, it felt earned. That evening, Naomi scrolled through the comments, smiling at the support. Yet deep down, she knew who she wanted to see it most. Her mother, Claudia. Her sister, Elena. She had no idea that both of them were already staring at her post. Elena frowned, jealousy twisting her face. Claudia, sipping wine in her living room, read the caption again and again, unable to believe her failure daughter owned such a car. Naomi didn't post for them. But their silence, after years of neglect, made this moment even sweeter. For the first time, Naomi had something they couldn't ignore. Across town, Claudia sat stiffly on her couch, phone clutched in hand. She had seen Naomi's photo 3 times now, each scroll confirming it wasn't a mistake. A $225,000 Audi? Her Naomi? The daughter she always called ordinary? Elena leaned over, eyes narrowing. There's no way she bought that herself. She must have a rich boyfriend. Her voice dripped with envy, though deep down, she knew Naomi was capable. Claudia pursed her lips. She wouldn't have the sense. But look, people are praising her. Hundreds of comments. Elena scrolled angrily, reading aloud. So proud of you, Naomi. An inspiration. Hard work shows. The words stung more than she admitted. For once, Naomi had all the attention. Meanwhile, Naomi sat in her clinic, responding to messages with a smile. She had no idea her post was causing a storm at home. Claudia wasn't thinking about forgotten birthdays now. She was thinking about appearances. What would neighbors say? What would friends think, knowing Naomi succeeded without her? The family who ignored Naomi suddenly couldn't stop talking about her. And for the first time, it wasn't out of love, it was out of fear of being left behind. Naomi's phone rang late that evening. The screen flashed, "Mom." Her heart skipped a beat, though she had long prepared herself for this moment. Months of silence, neglect, and overlooked birthdays had hardened her, but still, the instinctual hope flickered. "Naomi?" Claudia's voice sounded tentative, almost foreign. I saw your post. The Audi. Your clinic, everything. I just wanted to say, happy birthday." Naomi held the phone, her fingers tightening around it. She imagined the rehearsed apology she could give, the soft, guilt-laden words Claudia might use to reclaim a place in Naomi's life. But after months of silence, words alone didn't hold weight. "I appreciate the call," Naomi said carefully, keeping her voice steady. "It means a lot that you noticed." There was a pause. Naomi could hear her mother's uncertainty, the attempt to bridge a gap she had spent years ignoring. Claudia cleared her throat. "We'd like to see you, for dinner. To celebrate. You know, family." Naomi glanced at her Audi parked outside, sunlight reflecting off its polished surface. She felt the old pang of longing. But this time, she felt something else: control, calm, and quiet satisfaction. "I'll think about it," she replied, hanging up. A week later, Naomi arrived at her parents' house, the Audi parked proudly in the driveway. The air smelled faintly of roasted chicken and polished wood, familiar yet distant. Claudia and Elena stood at the door, smiles stretched too thin, eyes sparkling with a mix of pride and calculation. "Naomi, come in," Claudia said, her voice syrupy, rehearsed. "It's been far too long." Naomi stepped inside, noting the perfectly set table, the floral centerpiece, and the subtle tension beneath the surface. Everything looked welcoming, but she knew better. Years of neglect had taught her to read between the lines. This dinner wasn't about reconciliation, it was about control, testing her limits. Elena fluttered behind their mother, offering faint compliments. "Your clinic looks amazing. That Audi, wow." Her envy seeped through, barely masked. Naomi smiled politely, taking her seat. She let Claudia prattle on about family traditions and subtle reminders of Naomi's past failures. She listened, nodding at the right moments, all the while keeping her thoughts to herself. Inside, Naomi felt a quiet power. She was no longer the overlooked daughter. She was the one with achievements, independence, and the Audi that glinted in the driveway like a silent reminder of her success. Tonight, she wouldn't just sit. She would observe, measure, and prepare. Dinner began, and Naomi noticed the careful balance her mother and sister tried to maintain. Each compliment was laced with judgment, every word a disguised barb. "Naomi, that clinic of yours, it's impressive for someone so young," Claudia said, sipping her wine. Naomi caught the slight pause, the "for someone so young," heavy with doubt. Elena leaned in, smiling too brightly. "I can't believe you managed all this alone. Most people wouldn't even try." Her tone sounded admiring at first, but Naomi recognized the underlying bitterness. They were praising her to belittle her, pretending awe while trying to remind her of her past shortcomings. Naomi lifted her fork slowly, nodding politely. She didn't need to respond, the truth was already evident in her poised silence. Every glance, every forced smile, only emphasized their envy. Inside, she felt calm. These backhanded compliments revealed more than their words. They exposed insecurity, fear, and jealousy. Naomi realized she had finally become the one they couldn't control or dismiss. By the time dessert arrived, Naomi's smile was effortless. The room was filled with tension masked as civility, but Naomi's mind was clear. She had turned the tables without uttering a single harsh word. For the first time, she was untouchable. As the conversation lingered over dessert, Naomi noticed the subtle shift in Claudia and Elena's tone. Compliments had faded into questions that felt strategic rather than curious. "So, Naomi," Claudia began casually, stirring her coffee, "have you thought about expanding the clinic? Maybe opening more branches? Surely, you could use some family support." Her eyes flicked to Elena, who nodded eagerly. Naomi tilted her head, sensing the underlying motive. They weren't asking to help, they were angling for control, for a slice of her success. Years of neglect and manipulation had trained her to spot hidden agendas immediately. Elena chimed in, voice sweet yet sharp, "It must be exhausting running everything alone. Maybe sharing the work could lighten the load, for everyone's benefit?" Naomi's lips curved into a polite smile. She realized they wanted in on her achievements, hoping she would acquiesce and bring them along without earning it. She leaned back, calm and composed, letting their words hang in the air. Their plan was transparent, but Naomi didn't feel threatened. For the first time, she recognized the power imbalance had shifted. She wasn't the overlooked daughter anymore. She was the architect of her own life, and no hidden agenda could sway her. Naomi took a slow sip of her water, keeping her expression neutral. Claudia and Elena waited, their eyes probing, expecting hesitation or guilt. "I appreciate your concern," Naomi began, her voice steady, "but I prefer to manage the clinic myself. It's something I've built from the ground up, and I want to continue running it on my own terms." Claudia's lips pressed into a thin line. Elena's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of frustration. Naomi remained composed, unwavering. She didn't need to defend her success, her calmness spoke louder than any words. "I've worked hard for this independence," Naomi continued. "And while I value family, I also value the effort that went into achieving it." Her mother shifted uncomfortably, trying to mask disappointment with polite nods. Elena's hands tightened around her fork. Both realized Naomi wasn't falling into their trap. For the first time at the table, Naomi felt an inner triumph. They had expected compliance or guilt, but instead, they faced someone confident, self-sufficient, and unsure. Claudia set down her fork, her voice sharper this time. "Naomi, I really think you should consider letting us in on the business. You can't do everything alone forever." Elena leaned forward, eyes bright with ambition. "Mom's right. We could help. Think of the possibilities. Sharing a company with family makes sense." Naomi stayed calm, her posture relaxed, but inside, a quiet storm brewed. She had anticipated this. The shift from veiled compliments to outright demands was predictable. Years of manipulation had taught her well. "I understand your offer," Naomi replied, her tone even, "but my business reflects my work, my choices, and my vision. It's not something I can share without compromising what I've built." Claudia's hands trembled slightly. "Naomi, it's not just about money. It's about family, keeping us together. Don't you want that?" Naomi's smile remained polite but firm. "I value family, yes. But I also value respect, honesty, and the autonomy I've earned. My success isn't a prize to be divided or a tool for guilt." Elena's jaw tightened. Claudia opened her mouth to argue, then hesitated, sensing Naomi's unwavering resolve. The daughter they once ignored was now firmly in control. Naomi's calm refusal left no room for negotiation. Elena's envy simmered beneath the surface, impossible to hide any longer. It's not fair, she finally burst out, slamming her napkin on the table. You've had everything handed to you while I've had to work for everything. And now you flaunt your success like it's some prize. Naomi's eyes met hers calmly. Elena, I didn't ask for your approval or anyone's. I earned what I have. Hard work, dedication, and late nights. That's what matters, not comparison. Elena's face flushed red, her fists clenching in frustration. You think just because you've bought a car and opened a clinic, you're better than me? Naomi shook her head gently. It's not about being better. It's about creating a life I can be proud of. That's something you can do too, without dragging me down or demanding what's mine. Claudia looked between them, uncomfortable, clearly trying to mediate. But Naomi's composure left no room for manipulation. Elena's jealousy, sharp and raw, reflected years of favoritism and resentment. For the first time, Naomi saw her sister's true colors without anger clouding her judgment. Instead, she felt pity. Years of bitterness couldn't touch her now. Naomi had risen above comparison, envy, and neglect. She was untouchable. The room grew heavy with unspoken hostility. Claudia shifted in her seat, glancing at Elena, whose anger simmered just below the surface. Naomi remained calm, but the tension pressed in, a tangible force she could almost touch. You're impossible, Claudia muttered, forcing a strained smile. Why can't you just be normal? Family shouldn't be this hard. Naomi's lips curved into a polite, steady smile. I'm not impossible, Mom. I just won't let neglect define me. I value family, but I won't compromise my life or my work to make anyone feel comfortable. Elena scoffed, tossing her hair back. You think your success makes you untouchable. But it doesn't. You're still the same girl Mom ignored for years. Naomi took a deep breath, feeling the familiar calm she had cultivated over months of struggle. Their words bounced off her like water. They could try to provoke guilt, manipulate emotions, or undermine her confidence, but it wouldn't work. Inside, she was strong. She had built a life independent of their approval, a life that could not be shaken by envy, mockery, or silent threats. The tension continued to rise, but Naomi sat poised, the eye of the storm, untouchable, composed, and in full control of herself. Claudia's patience finally cracked. Her face hardened, eyes narrowing at Naomi. You're selfish, she spat, voice sharp. After everything I've done for this family, you only think of yourself. You've changed, grown arrogant. You don't care about anyone but your fancy little life. Naomi paused, letting the words sink in. Years of neglect, jealousy, and silent resentment had led to this moment. She had imagined insults before, but now, hearing them, she felt neither hurt nor fear, only clarity. I'm selfish? Naomi asked softly, tilting her head. Mom, I'm only selfish if wanting a life where I'm respected, valued, and seen is wrong. You and Elena ignored me for years. You forgot birthdays, milestones, and even simple moments that mattered to me. Claudia flinched, words faltering. Elena gaped, caught off guard by Naomi's calm yet firm confrontation. Naomi's voice remained steady. You say I'm selfish, but the truth is, I've only been building a life without waiting for approval. A life you never gave me. Claudia opened her mouth again, but no words came. Naomi realized the insult had backfired. Her mother's anger only highlighted the truth Naomi had long carried. She was free, untouchable, and finally in control. Naomi reached into her bag and pulled out a small, neatly stacked folder. She placed it on the table, the crisp sound of paper drawing Claudia and Elena's eyes. What's this? Claudia asked, voice tight, trying to mask curiosity. Naomi opened it to reveal calendars, screenshots, and old messages, evidence of every birthday she had waited for, every ignored call, every unacknowledged achievement. The years of neglect were meticulously documented. I thought you might need a reminder, Naomi said calmly, letting her eyes meet her mother's. Every time I expected a call or a message, there was nothing. Every milestone you ignored, every accomplishment you overlooked, it's all here. Elena shifted uncomfortably, realizing the weight of the proof. Claudia's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the top page, scanning the meticulous records. Naomi leaned back, her expression serene. She didn't need to shout or cry. The evidence spoke for itself, louder than any confrontation could. For the first time, Claudia and Elena could see clearly, not just Naomi's success, but the years of neglect that had led to it. The silence that followed was thick, tense, and undeniable. Naomi had not just told the truth, she had shown it, leaving no room for denial. Claudia set the folder down, her hands shaking. Naomi's eyes held a steady fire, the calm before a storm. "Do you see now?" Naomi asked softly, voice unwavering. "This isn't about the Audi, or the clinic, or even my independence. It's about years of being ignored, overlooked, and undervalued. You think neglecting me would make me small, but it only made me stronger." Elena's face turned red, guilt and envy battling in her expression. I didn't realize," she stammered, though her words rang hollow. Naomi shook her head gently. "You didn't have to realize anything. But now you can't deny it." Claudia opened her mouth, but no excuse came. The truth hung in the room, undeniable and heavy. Naomi had taken every slight, every forgotten birthday, and transformed them into silent proof of her resilience. "I've built my life," Naomi continued, voice calm but firm, "without waiting for your approval. I am here, I am seen, and I am in control. I'm not asking for anything from you. I'm only asking that you understand this: neglect has consequences, and respect must be earned." The confrontation left them stunned. Naomi had spoken the truth, and nothing could undo the power she now held. The room was silent, the weight of Naomi's words settling like dust. Claudia's face paled, and Elena's fists clenched tightly. For the first time, they realized the daughter they had overlooked for years had grown beyond their control. Naomi's gaze moved slowly between them, calm and unyielding. "This dinner was never about reconciliation," she said softly, yet every word carried authority. "It was about understanding. And now, I hope you do." Claudia opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Elena's voice faltered, a whisper of apology that sounded more like fear than remorse. Naomi remained composed, letting the silence press home the point. In that moment, everything shifted. The power they once held over her, the ability to belittle, ignore, and manipulate, was gone. Naomi had claimed it all. Her independence, her achievements, her confidence, they were hers, untouchable. Naomi rose from the table, glancing at her polished Audi through the window. It wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of her victory, of self-made success, of freedom from their neglect. For the first time in years, Naomi walked away feeling lighter, stronger, and entirely in control. The turning point was complete, the family no longer held the reins of her life. Naomi stepped outside, the crisp evening air brushing against her face. Her polished Audi gleamed under the driveway lights, a symbol of everything she had earned on her own. She slid into the driver's seat, the engine purring like a quiet victory song. Claudia and Elena watched from the doorway, their expressions a mix of shock, envy, and disbelief. For years, they had held the power to ignore, belittle, and dismiss her. Tonight, that power was gone. Naomi was untouchable. She started the car slowly, glancing at the rearview mirror. "This," she whispered to herself, "is freedom." As she drove away, Naomi felt an exhilaration she hadn't known in years. Every mile she put between herself and that house was a mile away from neglect, judgment, and jealousy. The Audi wasn't just a luxury, it was a statement. A testament to her hard work, resilience, and the years she had turned pain into progress. Naomi smiled, realizing the poetic justice of it all. Her family had ignored her for decades, yet now, they could only watch as she thrived. The daughter they tried to diminish had become a force they could neither control nor ignore. For Naomi, This drive marked the beginning of a life defined on her own terms. Naomi pulled into her driveway, the Audi's engine finally quieting, but her heart still raced with exhilaration. She stepped out and inhaled deeply, savoring the freedom that had once seemed impossible. Her clinic awaited her, humming with the energy of clients who respected her work and valued her dedication. No family drama, no judgment, just the life she had built from scratch. She walked inside, greeted by Olivia's cheerful smile. "How was dinner?" she asked, glancing at the polished car parked outside. Naomi chuckled softly. "Interesting," she said, eyes twinkling. "They finally saw me, but not in the way they expected. I'm done waiting for them. I'm done proving myself to anyone who won't see my worth naturally." The past's neglect no longer held power over her. Every ignored birthday, every slight, every dismissive word had become fuel, propelling her toward independence and success. Sitting at her desk, Naomi looked around at the clinic, the evidence of her perseverance. She realized that freedom wasn't just a moment, it was a choice, one she would continue to make every day. For the first time, Naomi truly felt complete. She had turned hurt into power, silence into triumph, and neglect into a life fully her own. The future was hers, and nothing could stop her. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.